Okay, so in the following step, step 9, I'm going to start with explaining. So I'm going to use a new function called the let function. So we use the let function to assign variables. So if you have some variables we want to use, that means the value for these variables changes every time you run the function. So just in its basic format, I'm just gonna explain it here. So let function. So if I have let two variables x equal 5 and y equals 2, and the formula that I would like to run and execute is x plus y. Okay, so if you run this in Excel, the result is gonna be 7. So meaning every time I can go back and change this value here, the 5, into a kind of a new value and run it and give me a new value. So in the following step, we're going to use the same function to the transaction worksheet, specifically in cell C33, okay, to use the let function to calculate the status for each of these customers. So, but using the logic again that's described in the function. Okay, so when you used also two variables, okay, the total spend and the total quality. So these are new variables created and assigned. So in other words, similar to having x and y in this particular example. So let me go back to, I'm just gonna hide this notation and then start with entering the formula. Okay, I'm gonna start here in cell C33. I'm gonna use or enter a formula to evaluate each customer total amount spent and total quantity of item purchased. That's the purpose here. Using the samples transaction data provided and return either price if they miss. So it's the logic. So within, so first I need to assign and calculate the find the total spend values, total spend and total quality, and then use that in a logic to return either price or a blank. Okay, so that means I'm going to use the let, see what logic they want me to use to calculate the each value of these variables, and then use a if statement to calculate and to kind of compare the two values to end up decide if they return a price or not. Just go ahead and enter that. Okay, so I'm going to start with the let function. So I assign the first variable is total spent, and that's the variable. So but what I'm gonna name the value, so this is the name, and now what is the value that I'm assigning to this name or this variable using the SUMIF. So it is A10 to A30. That's the range, the criteria range, and the criteria is going to be the customer ID B33. Okay, for that particular customer, calculate the sales, or M10, through the sum or total the sale in the range M10 through M30. Okay, and close that. So now this value, okay, will be assigned to the total spent. It's done with this one, the first one. Total, now the new one, or the second one, total quantity. We're going to use also the same function to assign the criteria range. It will be the same, A10 through A30. And for this, that's where we have all the customer ID, this one, comma. And the range, it's going to be the quantity. The quantity is in cell in column E. So it's E10 through E30. Oops, not that. See? E10, E30. Okay. Assign these two values. Now I have, so far I just did the like, you know, the example I explained is like the x and a value 5 and the y and a value of 3 or 2. That's the assign the value to the variable. Now I'm going to use it in a formula, so that we'll be using the if function to compare. According to the logic, I need to have two conditions, which is the total. So it's variable, you can see it's already exists here. So I'm going to use that. The total spent. If the total spent is greater than or equal the threshold in F33, okay, you have it here, okay, that's the minimum item order, the minimum item spent, okay, and total quantity is greater than and or equal E33. Okay, so if both are true, then, or if both are met, then display the word price, a reserve or deserve a price. Otherwise, it's a blank, and we close the two parentheses to calculate this. So, okay, so that's the function. I just want to kind of pause here so you can have a take a look. So total spent, the sum if, that's the value assigned to this variable. This value assigned to this variable, and this is the second value assigned to this variable, and then I use them both and compare with the threshold that I have here in this little table, and compare them. If this value is more than this value, if they spent greater than 400 and the quantity is more than is 3 or more, then yes, they deserve a prize. And if not, they just leave it as a blank. One of them, they both should be met. Now, before I copy this, because I reference to these two, I will reference to multiple actually ranges. I reference to the A column, to the M column. So every column I reference, every cell I reference to, I'm gonna use the lock them. I'm pressing F4, so it's quickly change the reference. Same with these two, okay? Only the B33 left without reference. So once I'm done with this, I'll go ahead and copy to give me, so there should be 2 customers receive price. Let's choose 2 customers, okay? Now we move on to the next step. Step 10 on the same worksheet. Okay, so we do have in cell I, so we do have kind of the values are, as you can see, they're pretty much static. So we're going to use a function to retrieve it. Okay, use the VLOOKUP to retrieve the item's price from the product list. So the products list table, it's arranged, so I have it in my let's see, should be okay, in here should have a product list. Here you go. So I'm going to reference to this. Okay, this is the range. It's A4 through from the product table. So as you can see, we can reference to other worksheet. This is, so I'm going to reference to this. So this is the product. So I'm going to reference to this and retrieve items. See how we do this? It's in cell I10. Okay. VLOOKUP. Now I'm gonna just, you don't need to have this highlight. I highlighted in the previous video just so I can show you how we are using the function. So the lookup value, it's cell the item ID to check if it's in the product list. Product list, as I'm going to show you, it's reference to the product list here. It's already pre-assigned for the retrieve number 4. So I'm going to retrieve column number 4. Okay. And for an exact, because it's an item ID, so I'm going to use an exact match. False. All this multiplied by, okay, the quantity in cell E10 and hit enter. So again, you see it's the same value, but I use, so the product, let me just, when I say number 4, so I retrieve the retail price, because if I say number 4 and I chose all these 4, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, okay? To retrieve this value, find the product ID, retrieve the value, multiply it by the quantity, okay? And that's how we write this or type the function. Now, there's no need to lock anything, because the product list is referenced as I'm using the name range, so it's already locked using name range, so I don't need to change or lock anything, and I'll just copy it. Now, having this not applicable or not /a, this is something we will come back and fix, so it's okay if you see this right now. Okay, that's it for step 10.